So this part of our summit is what we like to call sort of a TEDx-style presentation. These are fast-track presentations. Each speaker or group of speakers, as we have a couple of groups of speakers, will have about 20 minutes to kind of give you the highlights of a new and upcoming topic or something that is really relevant at the moment. So our first fast-track speaker, it's actually two speakers. Russell Castagnaro is the President and General Manager of Hawaii Information Consortium, or ehawaii.gov. Russell has over a decade of e-government experience and leads the team that builds, manages, and maintains most of Hawaii's e-government services. As you heard earlier today, this year, the participation between HIC and the state of Hawaii has yielded amazing results, and they won the Center for Digital Government's Best of the Web Award, so congratulations again to them on that. Russell is going to be joined today by Dr. Alvin Onaka, the State Registrar of Vital Statistics for the Department of Health. They're going to be speaking about leveraging existing resources, so please welcome them.
Aloha. Yay, we're working. Let's see, clicker, there we go. I think the typeface is off on this. Is that, I'm out of here. Didn't you guys see that thing this morning earlier? The typeface was off, we walked off. Anyway, oh well, what can you do? So thank you very much for letting us open this up. I always like to open up with a really bad joke. And what we're here to talk about is the successful leveraging of the portal. Now, how many of you know what the ehawaii.gov portal is? Ever heard of it at all? You don't even have to define it, just you've ever heard of it. So there's a lot of you who are going to hear this for the first time, which is why I have to go in to explain what the portal is, but don't worry, I'm being timed. So it's really cool. Les Nakamura, who was walking around here, he was up talking to my staff about the story of how we came to be. Even though I was going to talk about it, he didn't know. And it was very cool to hear him tell what I'm about to tell you right now. But in 1997, there was a national poll that came out, and in that national poll, it basically found that Hawaii was 49th in the nation, which, just to make sure nobody's worried about math, that's not good. Okay, 49th in the nation for public access to government services and information through electronic means. Okay, that was bad. The Cayetano administration thought it was bad. The legislature thought it was bad. University of Hawaii thought it was bad because the internet was invented here, AlohaNet. And so there was pretty much complete agreement that this was completely unacceptable. And what they did is they formed a group to say, what did the top 10 states do correctly? What did they do right? Well, this all came out and they passed bills for things like electronic signatures, things like fees to handle different processing, all sorts of different laws that were necessary that they had shown in other states to be successful in helping move along and fast-tracking e-government. This culminated in an RFP that was issued by the state of Hawaii in 1999 for a self-funded portal, an internet portal. And I remember when I used to work at Data House, Dan Arita and I looking over the thing going, wow, that is crazy. Why would a company do that? Who knew? Well, in 2000, we won, HIC, Hawaii Information Consortium, won the RFP. Yay us. And yay e-government. The key behind it is that it's this self-funded, a self-funded tool. So it was a no-cost thing. No money went into our pockets. Because of that, we had to prove ourselves with applications that could bring in revenue and support the portal program. It was not a sure thing at all. Which brings us to the start of our story and why Alvin is up here too, because what we want to do is talk about how the Department of Health has been one of the many partners that we've had, but the Department of Health has the interesting position of being the partner that has used us pretty much in every way possible through our contract as well as even through putting things up to RFP that we've won. Would you like to take it away? We're right there, you can see.
Okay. Thank you, Russell. Yeah, what I'd like to do though is to show you the world famous certificate which I'm the custodian of. It's the
most famous birth certificate ever
of the President of the United States, Barack Obama. But again, one of the only reasons why we have an opportunity to see it is that he posted it on the White House webpage, website. So that's the reason why we can see it. Because, again, currently, we do all our registration of births electronically, and it's paperless. So this is a rare opportunity to see what it used to look like. But secondly, and most importantly, why, it's really a challenge for us to be able to develop an online ordering system because of the balance between a confidentiality of individual records with balancing it with the individual access to one's own records. And again, that's the important challenge that we gave to eHawaii Gov to fill, and they did it very successfully. So anyway.
Thanks. So that was the first app that we actually developed for Department of Health, was an online vital records ordering system. At the time, there was another company, a third party, that was offering people the ability to order things while they're not there, right? So it was called Vital Check, and they charged about 4 times the price that the Department of Health charged to get a vital record. We came in and we charged a nominal additional fee to get it online, and it was a relative success. So we kept on going with that, and then Dr. Onaka came up with another idea.
At the time, I was president of the National Association of Vital Records, and we were working with the Social Security Administration on trying to see how we can be more efficient government to government. So what we came up with was being able to, immediately after someone expires, to be able to let the Social Security Administration know that one of their customers has expired. And the government accounting office said that if every state did this, the United States would save about $52 million per year in stopping benefits to those who have, to dead people. So again, we came to eHawaii Gov and asked, please help us do this. So it was really a public-private partnership that would not only benefit the state of Hawaii, but also the rest of the United States. What we're very proud of is that we had it was delivered on time and under budget, which is, again, very successful. But I think more importantly, we were able to do this, again, with the help of eHawaii Gov, and how they engaged the people who are involved in death registration. And those are the mortuaries, the physicians, the Department of Health, and others. So again, it was a very successful venture that we did, and we were recognized for that. We received one of the first of 2 awards we got from the Digital Government Achievement Award. It was for government-to-government service, that is, ability to be able to work with the state of Hawaii, working with the federal government, and efficiently being able to terminate the benefits for those who had expired using our electronic death registration system.
Thanks. I get a little teary now. So whereas the vital record system was actually self-funded, so there was no money, the electronic death record system was funded by federal monies. So we actually had to go talk to the Access Hawaii Committee board, our board, to get permission to do that project. But it worked out really well. And in fact, I believe within 18 months, it had paid for itself in payments that weren't being paid to dead people for the Social Security Administration. Pretty awesome. And there we go. So next, around 2007, which was around the time when our first contract came to an end, we had an RFP and we won our second portal contract, which added on some more things like websites and T&M projects. But the wastewater division came to us and they said, hey, we have this problem. We can't stand cashiering. Our guys are engineers. They don't like handling money. We don't like cash boxes. And it's really inconvenient for people to come in, construction workers to come in, all dirty, whatever. They come in, they have to pay cash or a check to do their wastewater permits. So we implemented an online system, and the Department of Health was pretty clever. They realized that there was going to need to be a fee associated with this for us to develop the system. It wasn't super basic. It had some workflow in it. And what they decided, we're self-funded, so there was a transaction fee we could put on there because there was a payment. And so they went to the legislature and said, hey, even though this money goes to the general fund, can we deduct the processing fee that they're going to charge from the wastewater permit itself to make it self-funded? The legislature said, of course. And lo and behold, in the beginning of 2008, we went live with that. We also went live with clinic renewals. So the clinics that are licensed by the Department of Health, they had a third party come in and design their licensing system, and they needed somebody to do the payment processing. No problem. We have a web service API that's secure. They get their payments processed just like any other partner. The money can get fulfilled the same way all of our other partners do. And look, even when people call and say, hey, what's this charge on my credit card? They call our customer service, not their desk, to find out what happened with it. So that was another really big success there. And then 2010 came, and we realized that we were running Oracle stuff, and Department of Health was running Oracle stuff, and maybe we could save them a lot of money by just managing their Oracle instance. And so we saved them a lot of money in 2010 by switching over to letting us manage it under our licensing. But we had another great opportunity with Alvin.
We had wanted to, as I had mentioned, had a paperless birth certificate. And now we had an electronic death registration system. So the other activity that I'm in charge of is marriage. And again, the importance of this is that that's our largest vital event that occurs. It is intimately related to our tourist industry. The majority, that is 67% of all marriages that occur in the state of Hawaii are of non-residents, or at least one is not non-resident. So again, it's visitors coming to Hawaii. We needed to find a way to make it a memorable experience. And again, we're talking about people not only coming from the mainland United States, but from all over the world. So we developed again, in partnership, an electronic marriage system. The first statewide one in the United States. And I don't think there still is any that is even in the world. So we were the first to develop an electronic marriage registration system. Should I stop here? Or there's a, okay. Yeah, and so what we're really proud of is that we were able to, again, get recognized by the digital government. We won a Digital Government Achievement Award, but this time it was dear to my heart because it was government to citizen. And that's what we're all about, is customer service. We wanted to be able to provide a service, government service to the customer. And we were recognized for this very efficiently. But I think I'll stop here because of time. But I think Russell will show you some of the investments that we made that paid off for other activities on this. But again, we're very proud of the ability to do this. And I just wanted to, again, it's the partnership with OMIT, with eHawaiiGov, and the Department of Health. And we wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our CIO, Dwight Bartolome at the Department of Health, and again, Jing Su and others at eHawaiiGov and the OMIT people. So it was truly, I believe, a public-private partnership that allowed us to do this. So we're very appreciative of that.
Thanks. Isn't he handsome? So we implemented that system. And by the way, as we were implementing the marriage system, we realized that there was actually a licensing thing here too, because you have all the marriage agents, the people who prove that you're actually present in Hawaii, which is a requirement of the system. And the officiants, the performers, have to be licensed too. So these were other things that we threw into the system as well, which halfway through the system is when we actually discovered that that was part of what we had to do. So some more interesting things. You'll see this, this picture is a picture of the first same-sex marriage in Hawaii. It was at the First Unitarian Church and, of Honolulu, and it happened at like 3 minutes after midnight. Now, what's interesting about this, other than what's not interesting about it, is the fact that in the space of 15 minutes, they filled out the form, enrolled, paid for their marriage certificate. The officiant, the agent, confirmed that they were in fact in Hawaii, and the agent, the performer, performed the marriage and then came back on and certified it. All of this was done before 1 a.m. in the morning. The office was closed. It was totally, unbelievably awesome for everybody involved. And for me and Jing, who were actually there, nervous as heck that the system was not going to work, but it worked perfectly. So it was very, very good. We also did some other cool things. We converted the EDRS database and the marriage system database in between going live with civil unions and the same-sex marriage, converted that over to another Oracle product, which is MySQL, which is, unbelievably less expensive to maintain. So the system is now a lot easier to maintain, a lot less expensive on an annual basis. We also had an opportunity to do TB clearances, tuberculosis. So every time you get a skin test or you get a lung X-ray because somebody's trying to prove you don't have TB, that's recorded somewhere. And it used to be on an old DOS application that was in one office. And we worked with them and answered an RFP to implement a system that was web-based, that was role-based, that would allow people statewide to see real monitoring, real information in real time and enter in the information about TB clearance information that would go in. All good. And these lessons, what Dr. Inaka was talking about, was from all these systems we learned lessons about role-based stuff, security, all the different things that we were going to need to do some of the things that are coming up next. Anybody know what that is? Medical marijuana. Right, so this is a real hot topic right now. In fact, I think at the legislature right now there's a meeting talking about the medical marijuana distribution and things like that. But January 1st, we're going to go live with a medical marijuana system that allows doctors to initiate a permit to allow someone who needs marijuana for medical purposes to be certified. This is tied into the cutover from the Department of Public Safety to the Department of Health, who is now going to be the one managing that particular service. The real-time ordering system is also going live for vital records. So we're retiring the old system we made and going live with a new one that, who here has ordered a vital record in person from Department of Health? Not a lot of people with kids, but it's not that fun. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to go down and say, wow, this works really, really great. It's like working with the DCCA or ordering something on Amazon. So to sum up, because I think I'm probably over already, the whole idea behind this is that you can leverage the portal, whether you're with the state or with the counties. You can leverage the portal to provide much, much better service to the public. And the things that you gain are not just efficiency, not just the fact that over the last year alone, we've saved the state over $7 million in avoided costs, and we could do a lot more, but that you actually get more job satisfaction because there's a reduction in clerical work and an improvement in the amount of work that you're doing that improves people's lives. Right? You can actually help them make the right decisions instead of help them put the form in the right bucket. And it's a lot better. Of course, our services are very, very inexpensive because they're self-funded. In most cases, they're free, or no cost, I should say. And you can do a great thing to follow what the Department of Health did. They've leveraged every possible model that we have. So there's completely self-funded, complete time and materials. There's hybrid, where you get something like the vital record system, which is a big system that needs to be implemented, but you don't want to have too high of a fee, so you can pay some of it down early, and then there's a maintenance part that gets covered by the fees. Or you can go with an RFP, and we can answer RFPs too if you really want to go that way. So they really went above and beyond in figuring out the best way to really squeeze as much out of us as they possibly could. So thank you very much, and I appreciate being able to work, and everybody here, all the staff really appreciate being able to work with you, and we really appreciate the trust that Dr. Inaka and Dwight and everybody at Department of Health has trusted us with too. Thanks.
I think that's a really example of a great team, yeah, and a really good illustration of problem solving using existing resources, right? We don't always have to reinvent the wheel, and we really shouldn't. So thank you for sharing all of those illustrations. Our next speaker, Ian Katajima, is the Director of Corporate Development with Ocean IT, one of Hawaii's largest and most diversified consulting, science, technology, and engineering companies, with 160 professionals here in Hawaii, California, Texas, and Washington. They have been working on OIT transformation initiatives, and Ian will be speaking to us today about change management, one of my personal favorite topics. So please welcome Ian.
I have a timer here for myself. So the topic, that was on here originally was how to be a change agent. So we're gonna, of course, stay within that guidelines. But I'm going to change it up a little bit, make it hopefully a little bit more interesting. But first of all, I want to thank everybody for sticking around. I know the day is almost over, so and I got 20 minutes here. So first, I wanted to just kind of acknowledge the work that everyone has been doing with IT transformation. It's so much bigger than just IT. I was just in the back sitting with some folks, and they weren't really in IT. They were really part of the state, and they're here to be part of this transformation process. I don't know if some of you have seen this characters before, or this saying, Ichigo Ichi. It's actually comes from, you see quite a bit in martial arts, but it primarily comes from tea ceremonies back in the 1600s in Japan. And the mindset behind this philosophy was that every moment is precious. That when the host is preparing for the tea ceremony, they treat it like this moment will never happen again. It is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. And though people will come together again and again, that moment will never happen again exactly that way. And so even the guests who come understand that and treat that moment, and they bring all of themselves to that special moment. I think we here in Hawaii have, through the transformation process, a kind of an Ichigo Ichi moment where we have this unique opportunity that will never come again, and that we're going to be part of something much bigger. And so hopefully this, as we go through it, this will all make sense as we go more along. When the team from OceanAid came to me and said that we were going to talk about change, I thought, this is going to be awesome, because we live change every day at OceanAid. It's all about change. I calculated a while back that we do about one new major innovation every month starts at OceanAid. So I thought, this is going to be easy. We're going to do this talk. And part of it is we kind of feel like this a lot of times. I don't know if you know this character, Gumby, and my boss, Pat Sullivan, is here. He may be the horse, which is Pokey. But we all feel like Gumby, and Gumby is very flexible and adaptable and moldable and changeable to change. And so very much, I think we feel like that, and we kind of live this thing that I think everyone kind of doesn't like, which is change. These are hopefully 5 takeaways you'll get from today. I'm hoping to get, as I'm looking at my other screen here, that change is certain. So a lot of these things you see on here, it's like you've seen it before. It's very obvious, right? It's like these are very fundamental things, but in practice, they're very hard to do. I think we've seen, like change is certain, and adaptability. Like adaptability, it trumps S3, which in my short thing is speed, smarts, and strengths. plan but be ready to adapt. All of these things are kind of cliche almost because they're actually very hard to do. Okay, so we'll go through it, and hopefully at the end, I'm just going to tell you how do you become more adaptable, because that's really how I kind of want to change it up a bit. Now, when I started really working on this talk about change, I really realized that this is really hard. I don't know if you ever had to do a talk about change, but it's really hard. And actually, what it reminded me of is change is feels like death and taxes. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? If you really think about it. But change, like death and taxes, is a certainty. It's going to keep happening. So the question is, how do we respond and adapt to the constant change in realities that we're going to go through? So the talk is about change, and this is my friend Darwin. And if you remember what he didn't say, it's not the S3s, right? It's not the smartest, strongest, smartest that survive, right? It's the ones that are most responsive to change. So instead of talking about change so much today, I want to talk about how to be more adaptable. Like, how do you become better at adapting to change? Because that's really what I think is what we all want to know. So, do you know what this picture is of? Anybody? Stairway to Heaven. Okay. How many people have done the Stairway to Heaven? Okay, so Arnold, when did you do it? Okay, so you're illegal. Okay, so who did it like in the 80s? Anybody did it in the 80s? Oh, all right, brother, back there. So me too. I did this when it was legal, before 1987, right? And this thing was built, and it's the Stairway to Heaven, right? It's literally these stairs that go along the Kola Mountains, and you can actually see it. If you're on H3, even if you ever drive H3, as you're coming through the tunnels heading to Kaneohe, and you're on the H3, you can actually see these stairs. It's absolutely beautiful. You see it on the side of the thing, and it's beautiful, and it's actually terrifying too when you see these things, because it is crazy high. Let me see here. So I'm going to tell you a story, my story, about doing this climb like back in the 80s. But I'm also going to combine it with information and research that comes out of this book called Deep Survival. And if you've not read this book, I tell you, it is one of the best books you'll read about, not so much about why people die and survive, but just the psychology of what happens in extreme conditions. Because this book is about why the people in this book, none of these people should have died or been injured, because they had the best of everything. They had the best planning. They took their time. They had the best resources. They had the most experienced people. They had the best support teams money and time experience could buy. They had it all, but they still failed. So when you want to learn about, and this has great relevance, I think, to large implementations, large systems, everything, you want to learn about why things don't work, read this book. You will learn a lot. I've learned a lot from it. So part of it is I'm going to share some of the research that's in here as I kind of tell this story, okay? So the first concept in kind of one of the first concepts is like planning. So, of course, you got to plan, right? And when I did this hike, there were 4 friends. We both worked at this Shell gas station while we were in college. So we could see the Stairway to Heaven in Kaneohe. I lived in Kaneohe, I was going to school, and we could see it every day, and we would say, you know what, we're going to take this hike. So finally, we decided to make a plan. And in many ways, our plan wasn't a plan, because we didn't think it through. We took no jackets, no water, no nothing. The only thing we took was my camera to document our stupidity when we got to the top. So we didn't really have a plan. We assumed it was going to be a nice day, right? It's beautiful. And think, we're going to get to the top. And you know what? It's going to be easy because we're young, we're fit. You know, how hard can this be? And it's stairs, right? It's just stairs to the top, right? So here we go. All right, so we go on to the top. Now, a plan is about predicting the future, right? So one of the first things that was happening is the plan wasn't turning out the way we thought. Because as we started going up, it was actually a lot tougher and wetter and colder and slower than we anticipated. But the thing is, we could see the goal, right? We could see the goal to get to the top. And this is part of the psychology. The emotional pull to get to the top overrode anything we saw. If the weather was getting bad and we were getting tired, it didn't matter because what was important was getting to the top. And I don't know if any of you have ever climbed stairs before. You got to climb some stairs, in your office building, right? But imagine climbing stairs for 2 hours. 2 hours. It's brutal. I don't care how old you are, or how young you are, or how fit you are, it's brutal. And we were huffing and puffing and using our arms and everything we had, and mentally, we had to be really on it, right? And we kept looking up at this thing and going, we're going to get to the top, right? Now, actually, what happened is one of our guys, we assumed we were all going to make it, but actually one of our friends was a little bit less in shape. So about halfway, but you could see it. Along the way, he was already suffering, but he was pushing super hard. But eventually, we had to stop him and say, you know what, you got to stop and go back down, right? So we had to literally stop him, and then the three of us continued to go up. So we get to the top. Boom. We're super happy, right? We're high-fiving, we're taking pictures, and all the things you do when you reach your goal, right? You're just so happy. But at the same time, unknowingly, a lot of things are happening to your body and your mind. You're not as sharp anymore, right? You're kind of letting down your guard. You're not really paying attention to what's going on. And physically, we had expended most of our energy just to get to the top, right? It was so much harder than we anticipated, right? So we get to the top, and I look around, and I realize, you know what? There's another top. There's the real top. We thought we were at the top, but we weren't. And actually, the trail that led to the real top was so crazy, bad in shape, it was dangerous. I was afraid. I was like, oh, this is really dangerous. But you know what? The goal, the emotional goal to get to the top was more important. So we said, screw this, we're going to just go. And so we went. And we got to the other top, right? And that's not me, that's my friend. One thing we did do, we planned for, is we made a flag. You always got to have a flag. When you get to your top of your mountain, you get to your goal, right? So we had a flag, and you can see the head of my other friend coming up the stairs who was really dying as well. So here we are. We're all on the top, right? But here's the thing about in deep survival, what you learn. When you get to the top, that's only halfway. And people die and get injured on the way down, not on the way up so much. Because physically, mentally, you're so exhausted, and you thought the top was the goal. But the reality is the top wasn't the goal. The real goal is to get to the bottom, right? You remember JFK when he said, we're going to put a man on the moon? That wasn't correct, right? I always say that, put the man on the moon. That wasn't the goal, right? What was the real goal? Bring him back. Because it would have been easy to just say, hey, Buzz, you know what? We're going to give you a first-class ticket, one way, going to be like 1,000 times easier for us, but sorry. Bringing them back is hard. Getting down, technically, from the climber standpoint, is much, much more difficult, right? So, it's only halfway, right? Now, I gotta show this. Can you see that picture? So when I was up there, as we were just jubilating and so high, we made it to the top, I looked around and I looked back the way we came, and I panicked. I totally panicked. Because going down is really different than coming up. Coming up was pretty scary, but going down now was totally insane. Because this is what it looks like. Have you ever climbed up a ladder? It's kind of scary, just climbing up a ladder, right? It's pretty wide, but your feet plant, and before you shift your weight, you're pretty secure. It's scary, but you can get up a ladder. Now, what happens when you get on the roof of your house on the ladder? That's when it gets scary, right? When you turn around and you come to the ledge that has no railing, right? And that's only 15 feet off the ground on your roof, right? You know that feeling? You look over the edge, but imagine the edge is like 50 feet down, and the ladder doesn't come all the way up to your chest and you can get on top. The ladder is on the ledge, 50 feet down. That ladder feels like 2 inches wide. And you can see these 3 guys, we're all kind of looking at the ladders and things going, how the hell are we gonna get on this ladder? It's really frightening right now. So, you know, the question is, so what does all this have to do with IT transformation and the transformation project, right? Like, what are you talking about, climbing and dying and getting all this stuff? This is gonna make sense a little bit more once I add this one more concept. So I'm gonna show you a framework. And most of us, or a lot of us, are technologists in the room, right? And so actually, when you're a technologist, you think that the technical element is probably the biggest element in the whole project, right? It's like, I don't know, 80%? I don't know. That's how I used to think, like, oh, that's a big part of it. But in reality, like in the climb, right, it's not just the up, it's the down. And this is the down. And this is the part that we always get trouble in. Business and the human element. And normally, we way underestimate the human element in a project, right? This is the danger side, right? So how does this all play out? I'm not following my notes here. So how does this all play out? So on the technical side is more like going up to the top. It's only halfway, right? It's only halfway. And by the way, climbers are the only sportsmen who actually celebrate when they're only halfway through their goal, when there's still the most dangerous part to still traverse, which is the downside. And I'll tell you that I believe that the human element piece of what we do is this downside piece. And we cannot forget it and how important it is, okay? So here's the 5 takeaways, right? So change is certain. Yeah, it's like death and taxes. But it's how do we adapt to that change? Adaptability trumps, I think, S3, speed, strengths, and smarts, which kind of explains my existence at Oceanet, I think, because there's a lot of smart guys there. Plan, but be ready to adapt. And you know, this idea of plan to adapt, when you read Deep Survival, the people who actually die are some of the most experienced people, because they're so experienced, and they relied on their planning so much that in the face of reality, that they created the plan, right? They created this plan for some reality, but the reality is so different now. But for whatever reason, they didn't change the plan. What they expected was the reality to eventually change to their plan. And in extreme cases of mountain climbing, and in what you find in this book, those things actually get you into trouble very, very quickly. So that's why that book is so interesting, because it's in such extreme conditions you learn about why things fail. But you have to be ready to adapt. And you know, there's so many examples of companies that are very strong, very powerful, very fast, but didn't adapt. And examples are like Kodak, and you can name them. Blockbuster Video, they're no longer around. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, if they don't adapt, it doesn't matter how strong they are. They eventually won't survive either. You have to be able to adapt. So this last part is about how do you become more adaptable, okay? So how do you become more adaptable? So, did I miss a slide here? Okay, so the reason why I bring up these slides is we go to school, and our work experience teaches us these a lot of times the technical and the business elements. The hard part is, where do you get training to do the human part, right? Where do you learn that stuff, right? So a few years ago, we really started getting into this at Oceanet, and we kind of met up with David. This guy is David Kelly. He's the founder of IDEO, very famous product design firm, as well as the design school at Stanford, where they teach this stuff, right? And this is his quote, make the human element as important as the technical and business elements. And so David created a process called design thinking, and it's these 5 steps, but we also incorporate the tools of organizational change management in the work that we do. Think of these as the gear in your pack as you go climbing. and as you come down. These are all the tools that you can use to do this kind of work. What David did was he took the process of creativity, innovation, in many ways of how to be more adaptable, and made it into a process that you can teach and you can learn. The whole value of this stuff is that everybody can learn this stuff. You can learn the process so you can learn to be more responsive and adaptive. And it's basically these 5 basic steps. Here's one way to look at it. So in more traditional thinking, we place a lot of emphasis on the technical side. In design thinking, we don't ignore the technical or the business. We just add and make sure that the human element is as important as the business and technical elements. We have a plan, yes, everyone else have a plan, but we also have an emphasis on how to adapt. We focus a lot of times on looking for answers in more traditional thinking. In design thinking, we focus on how do you create and create the right answers so that you can get better answers. So create better questions to get better answers. The difference between designing for and designing with somebody is very subtle, but it's a big difference. Requirements are important, but also needs of users are very important as well. Quantitative, very important. But in design thinking, we also add the component of qualitative. And that's, in many ways, where you'll find the great, and my time is running out here. Oops. Sorry. Where you'll find a lot of the solutions you're looking for. Many times it's a solo climb versus you want a team climb. In the story I was telling you, there was, if I told you a little bit more, you would have realized that we were creating our own disaster waiting to happen on that mountain. Because as we were coming down, we were literally on top of each other coming down those stairs, right? And if you're a systems person, you can kind of figure this out. If one of us tripped, right, it would be a total disaster. And in fact, the guy on the top is the guy that cannot fall. And the other thing, too, is that there are people coming up that we couldn't see either. So we had a catastrophe always happening. And just because something doesn't happen, an accident doesn't happen, doesn't mean it won't. That's why I'm so surprised that there hasn't been more disasters up there on those stairs. Lastly, on this, a lot of times everything is personality driven. Design thinking and OCM are tools that you use to empower your people so that they can do the work. Okay. I'm gonna run out of time here. So here's my buddy again. And what's so exciting about what he said, in my opinion, is that you can, by being more adaptable and more responsive, you can be wildly successful. You can create wildly successful projects. And there's a way to learn how to be more adaptable through design thinking and OCM tools. And then lastly, this is going back to Ichigo Ichi. I'm kind of rushing here. It's such a great opportunity. I know it's hard because a lot of us are, we're very much deep into the projects. A lot of the things that we will do, we will never kind of see the results. William James, this guy, William James, a Harvard philosopher, I always forget his name, but I remember his quote. He says, "The greatest use of a life is to use it for something that will outlast it." And I think we have this great opportunity with the IT transformation project. This is a translation of Ichigo Ichi. I'll just let you read it. And I think of it as, this is our time, our one chance. And I want to thank you all again. We look forward to working with everyone in the room in the years to come, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. That ability to change and adapt really is what sets individuals and organizations apart. And I know you all are at that really pivotal sort of flywheel moment. So, I know that there's going to be great progress ahead. And thank you, Ian, for sharing those scalable lessons. See what I did there? Scalable? Anyway. All right, so we're getting to the end of the day, so bear with me. Our final session will be led by Bert Lum. He's the Executive Director of Hawaii Open Data, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the principles of open knowledge in Hawaii. He has more than 30 years in Hawaii's technology and communications sector, is an instructor at the University of Hawaii and currently produces and co-hosts a weekly science and technology show on Hawaii Public Radio. Do any of you know the name of it? Bite Marks, yeah, so we got some listeners out there, great. So Bert is here with a few panelists that he's going to grill about open data. Brian Black, the Executive Director of Civil Beat Law, and Kristen Izumi Niado, I hope I didn't butcher your name too badly, the Executive Director of Campaign Spending Commission. Please welcome them.
Before I get started, I need to take a selfie.
You want to take a selfie?
Yeah, might as well. All right. Well, I can take a selfie with you guys too. So I'm gonna, quickly go into this because, again, I want to thank you all for hanging in with us. We're the last panel before happy hour, and so without any further ado, what we will do is, in terms of, I'm not going to grill my panelists. I mean, I invited them graciously and they graciously agreed to be a part of this. So I want to give Brian Black a chance to talk a little bit about what he does. He's the executive director at the Civil Beat Law Center, and then Kristen Izumi Nitao from the Campaign Spending. So I'll give them about 5-7 minutes, and they can talk about some of the things that they do, and then I'll kind of wrap it up at the end. So Brian.
So for many of you, I'm sure you're not familiar with the Civil Beat Law Center. It is not the publication Civil Beat. It's a nonprofit legal services provider that helps folks out with access to public records and open meetings. And as part of that process, I run into a lot of people who are frustrated with access to open government. And so I thought I would sort of lay out a little bit of the framework in terms of thinking, and perhaps related to Ian's talk, give you a space in which to seek to adapt and change attitudes here. There we go. So the first thing I wanted to do to lay a groundwork here is to, in talking about public expectations and what is it that the public is really looking for when they're asking for records, when they're looking for data sets. Why are they doing that? What do they expect the state agencies to be thinking when they walk through the door and they put their request forward? And to do that, to lay that groundwork, I think where you start with is the right. You have to respect the right to public access. And what I put up here is a quote from the preamble to our Uniform Information Practices Act here in the state. And you'll see that there's a strong spirit to public records law that says, government records really are records for the public. And to the greatest extent possible, records and government business should be conducted as openly as possible. So the public can look at the law and they'll see this great statement as to what the purpose of everything is in terms of providing access. And they're coming to the state, they're coming to the agencies with that expectation that I can get access to whatever I need in order to better understand the government and understand what everyone's doing. So that's really asking for a certain type of attitude from folks who are responding to these types of requests. It's an attitude where folks should be asking, what must be withheld? I would contrast that, though, with what sometimes is the response from state agencies, and that is, well, what do I have to give them, right? It's a slight change, but it's a really important change. If you are thinking about things in terms of what do I have to keep back, what do I have to control, not what's going to embarrass me or people in the agency, what do I have to give them as a bare minimum? It's a question of what really has to be withheld. And you see that again in the statute. This first quote here is from the statute. It starts with the presumption that all records are open unless they're restricted or closed by law. And the legislature, when it passed the UIPA in 1988, they recognized that they could pass the greatest law there ever was, but that law depends completely on the attitude of the people that are implementing it. And so you see this quote from the conference committee in the legislative history, when they passed the UIPA, and they said the proper function of any public records law is very much dependent upon the attitude of those who implement the law. And they put it out as a challenge to state and county agencies to really do their best to put out and keep public records as open as possible. And so in terms of what must be withheld, you're talking about, each agency is quirky in its own way. Some agencies will have confidentiality statutes. You always have the Constitution, which the right of privacy. There are always those. But things that are in the UIPA itself, unless they're backed up by a statute or the Constitution, the UIPA exceptions are discretionary. And that always means that there is a policy decision that can be made at some point to try and release more records than you have to keep out by law. So where does this fit into the open data sets and trying to create a system where there's more data available? I think, again, it's attitude. It's looking at databases at the time of creation. When you're thinking about putting together data sets, always assume that there's going to be somebody down the road who's going to request access, whether it's for the entire database or whether it's for some report or some aspect of it. So in order to think about those things ahead of time, you create a lot of efficiencies later on. You make things a lot easier for people later on when somebody actually makes the request. You can identify which fields might need to be confidential up front and build that into the database. You can make sure, and I've run into this problem several times, agencies have proprietary databases that are closed systems and they can't export and they can't do this. Having a system where you can do comma delimited exports, it seems very simplistic for most IT folks, I think. But at the same time, I know that there are systems out there where they can't do that. And that's a problem from the creation aspect of it going forward. And it should be something that can be fixed easily at the beginning. And then documenting the search capabilities. And this leads in documenting search capabilities in data dictionary. And that leads into the next aspect, which is when somebody makes the request. Requesters never know how state agencies maintain their systems. And it's really important to engage in a dialogue with the requesters. Many requesters that I've encountered will want to talk to an IT person. They'll want to talk to somebody because you have requesters who are getting more and more sophisticated. They know how to, they have a much better understanding of how technology works, and they are going to be looking for ways to get the big data sets. And when they're asking questions, it helps to educate them. If you engage in a dialogue with them, if you educate them to how the systems are maintained and what the capabilities are, what the data dictionaries are, if you do that, they can work on creating a more sophisticated request that makes everybody happy, right? It makes it more efficient for the agencies, and it gives the requesters what they're looking for. And of course, I throw this last one in there. If there's ever anything that does need to be withheld, and there are times that's necessary, it's important to figure out a way to redact. The agencies have a responsibility to redact, and I think that goes along with the whole idea of making things as open as possible. And that sort of, I think, leads to Kristen's and campaign spending finances, our campaign spending commissions, change in attitude. I don't think it's a change in attitude. I think it's just a positive attitude toward providing more access to their information.
Okay, well, good afternoon. My name's Kristen Izumi Nitao, and I'm with the Hawaii Campaign Spending Commission. We are a small commission. There are only 5 staff members and 5 commissioners, and we are administratively attached to the Department of Accounting and General Services. You know, my office pretty much is able to speak really to all 3 aspects of what we're here this afternoon with respect to open data, transparency, and collaboration. We have a mandatory electronic filing system where all candidates running for state and county offices and all organizations that give or spend more than $1,000, they have to file reports with us. And these filings, these reports go back to November 2006 to at least November 4th, 2014. And these reports show all contributions, all expenditures. In other words, all the money that people or organizations, entities, nonprofits, what committees give to the candidates or other organizations. And they also show where they're spending the money. And these reports cover 365 days of the year, and there are very stringent reporting deadlines. And if you don't file this report, the commission will fine you and seek enforcement. So I think in that aspect, we really try to make sure that the committees out there and the candidates out there who are running in our election for a seated office are filing these reports. So our data is open. Our data is there. What have we done with it? As opposed to just seeing it in Excel spreadsheets in black and white, which is what you can do, in partnership, or rather I should say in collaboration with OIMT, ICSD, and with Socrata, we leveraged this open data and began to build data visualization applications in hopes to provide the public with more graphic depictions of the data. So I want to show what we've done to increase transparency of the open data, and I'd like to first show you our website. On our website, you'll see that there are 2 applications to the far left. One is for the candidate committee data visualization, and the one below in blue, and the one below it is for non-candidate committee data in orange. So if you were to click on that first one, the candidate committee data on our website, you will see it opens up to a search term where you can enter into the name of the candidate and the election period. And once you enter in that name, I pulled our new governor, David Ige, you will get to see a series of links on the far right, at least a dozen of them, which will show you in a pie chart or color graphic what is reported in those black and white spreadsheets. So in this slide, and I only have one slide to show you for purposes of just, speed, contributions by source. So you'll get to see here his pie chart for this election period, and you'll see who gave him, or what grouping gave him the most money, and in this case, it's individuals. There are a series of other links on the side that you can click on and see more information in colorful graphics, pie charts, geomaps. But I want to move really quickly. This was launched in 2013. What you may not have seen is what we launched in 2014 November. This is the non-candidate committee. Same type of functionality where you plug in the committee's name and the election period, and then what you'll get to see, again, are colorful pie charts of what they enter into their report in colorful graphics. So this one is one of Alexander and Baldwin, and you will see the contributions sorted by what race, or rather what by office, excuse me. So I just want to show this because this was launched in November of 2014. It's real-time data that you can go back to November 2006 to November 2014. The only caveat I have to this information is that this information is only so good as what the candidates and the committees put in their reports. But again, in collaboration with ICSD, with OIMT and Socrata, we are able to build this and deliver this real time. And I'm happy to tell you that we just came back from a conference last week in Pittsburgh with other campaign finance systems, and we are on the cutting edge of doing this type of delivery to our public. I want to move real quickly to another area of which where we moved with making our data more transparent. And this one was with Common Cause and Hawaii Open Data with Burt Lum. They sponsored a civic accelerator competition with a vocal grant. And they invited coders, designers, developers, entrepreneurs, students to create applications in hopes to give voters better tools to understand who is funding political campaigns and how they spend their campaign funds. So in January 2014, they launched this with an April 2014 wrap-up. And I want to show you just a couple slides of what two coders were able to do with the same data, the same two applications we built. This is what people from our community built on their own through this grant that Common Cause and Hawaii Open Data sponsored through this event. This first slide will show you an application where you are able to focus on a precinct to view House and Senate races. So if you were to look at this slide, you'll be able to see in that precinct who is running. And if you click on the election period, you will then get to see the contributor groupings for those two candidates who are running. And again, this is a way which we hope voters would look at before they go to the polls to get a better read of who their candidates are in their precinct, in their district, to perhaps understand, is this somebody who you are in alignment with? This one was built by a person called Ben Trevino. I don't know if he's here, but this is one illustration. The other one I want to show you focuses on expenditures, and this was built by someone named Jason Axelson. If you look at that, it looks like, and I say it looks like those, to see if you're colorblind, if you can see what letter is spelled out. And this is the bubble type of graph. It's really interesting because this one focuses on the full 2014 election to view all candidate expenditures by color code. So each of those bubbles represent some type of category of expenses. And then he broke it down further by viewing it by office to see how much was expended by office by the color-coded expenses. So this one again focuses on Governor Abercrombie with respect to advertising. He represents the second most, and the other larger one was Governor Abercrombie, and the smaller one was Duke Aiona. In any event, if you were to go to civic.accelerator.org, you'll get to view the other applications. I'm just trying to make this short for time. There were six or eight other 8 teams who competed in this, and our gratitude out to the community for taking an interest in this data, because it is our hopeful impact to increase voter engagement, voter interest, voter participation, and getting this data out there in a more viewer, user-friendly way. So, thank you.
Well, thanks, Brian and Kristen. So if you hadn't already known, this talk is really kind of revolving around this sort of new era of open data. Not only, there's a lot of people that have been working on open government, transparency, but now this data element, I like to think of it as like the internet, but it's another layer of a platform that we will continue to build upon. And I think there's going to be more and more data becoming available by the government. So what I want to do is go through a real quick presentation on what I think is going to be kind of important things to think about in 2015. So, we are actually at the leading edge of something that's happening worldwide. So this is the Open Government Partnership, and the Open Government Partnership is a multilateral initiative that aims to secure concrete commitments from governments to produce transparency, empower citizens, fight corruption, and harness new technologies to strengthen governance. I think what I'll do is walk around. Hello. Okay. So basically, what is happening is that this is something that's happening on a global scale. I had the fortune of going to a couple of conferences. One was in Berlin and the other one was in London. And this whole open data movement is actually being embraced by a lot of countries. And sometimes we here in our state feel like we're a little bit isolated from all of that that's going on globally, but this is actually a global movement. This open government partnership started with about 8 countries back in 2011, and they're now up to about 65 countries. And they do meet and they do make policies that affect people, it's like a hierarchy, but there are activities that are taking place within those countries that foster this environment for open data. So back in 2011, a couple of the key things that happened was that they identified these sort of 4 areas that they focused in on. Increase the availability of information about government activities, support civic participation, implement the highest standards of professional integrity throughout their administrations, increase access to new technologies for openness and accountability. Now, these are pretty high-level things, but if you start to see governments actually trying to embrace this, and how does it actually trickle down to all of us, sort of citizens at the working level? And it's really interesting and fascinating to watch because it is having an impact, and it is becoming more and more pervasive. And we're seeing that here. In fact, I think that Hawaii is at the leading edge. At the G8 Open Data Charter, this happened in 2013. Just real quickly, these are the 8 most, first world countries got together. They all took this charter and actually took it to heart and are implementing it in their respective countries. So you got open data by default. So data is not closed or proprietary, it should be open by default. Quality and quantity, usability by all, releasing data for improved governance, and releasing data for innovation. And this is adapted by the G8. So again, this is kind of a global thing. And then if you get down to sort of the US, there's a lot of activity going on in the US. I mean, we all love Sunny Bagawalia, and I gotta mention his name because I think he was one of the key initiators of our open data and open government sort of movement here, and did quite a bit to foster that. But he was involved with data.gov back at GSA, and of course in 2009 President Obama did the Open Government Directive. In 2013 we have an executive order making open and machine readable the new default for government information, and this is important, machine readable. 2013 you got the Project Open Data that was led by the new Chief Technology Officer, Todd Park. And then most recently, 2014, the Office of Science and Technology Policy Open Government Plan. So these are things that are happening at the global as well as national level. Back here, bringing it back home to Hawaii, in 2013, we were successful at passing an open data bill in the state of Hawaii. So there's a bill, Act 263, for relating to open data. And then in the same year, we passed a bill in the city and county of Honolulu, which is Ordinance 1339. So we are on the books, and what Hawaii got recognized for, I think we were recognized this past year as one of the top 6 states in the nation that has not only a policy, but a portal. So we do get recognized for the achievements that we have accomplished here. And I want to just, share that with all of you because you've all been a part of this. Now, this is the part where if you remember anything of this presentation, like our morning speaker said, you're going to only remember 20% of what gets talked about. This is some of the 20% that I hope you start to think about. So what are we going to do in 2015, and what do we need to sort of start thinking about with respect to open data? One of the things that the Open Data Institute, ODI, in London has helped to promote is the idea of open data certificates. And the idea here is that you should start to think about the degree of reliability that data gets published. So at the lowest level, you have raw data. You have another higher level, the pilot, standard, and an expert. But what you want to start to think about is as people start to build applications, they start to build businesses around open data, how can we ensure that that data is reliable, has integrity, and will be maintained over the course of years? And that's where sort of this certification process comes to play. So I think in 2015, we should be starting to think a little bit more about these certificates. Another thing that we should start to think about is the idea of licensing. And oftentimes when you look at the data sets, what license is it being provided under? And just as an example, I wanted to bring to your attention the idea of Creative Commons and the CC0, which is public domain. So it enables, again, scientists, educators, artists, and other creators and owners of copyright or database protected content to waive those interests in their works and thereby place them as completely as possible in the public domain so that people can use it, people can create applications without the, let's say, the limitations that a license might have on it. So in terms of a lot of the federal government's data that gets released, it's all the CC0 licensing. So probably want to think about, when you publish the data, you want to make it freely and easily accessible. There's going to be more, I think, effort to do training on data, like what is open data. And one of the things that's available online, it's from the Open Knowledge Foundation, and they have a site called School of Data, so you can go to schoolofdata.org, and there are some online courses to take. And this is just, I think there's going to be more interest in just sort of the education of what is open data and what qualifies as open data. And then lastly, this is kind of a fun thing, but Mozilla has sort of initiated something called open badges. And this is sort of just a way to get an electronic badge for the classes that you've taken. So all of those School of Data courses that you could potentially take, there is an open badge that you can have as a result of taking that class. And the way the badges work, there's a badge issuer. So there's some software that actually controls how the badges get issued. There's a badge issuer, and there's a badge earner, which is yourself or myself. And then it's sort of this trust arrangement. And I trust that you did this, and here's the criteria, and it's based on this evidence. So when you get the badge, it is a badge that does reflect an accomplishment that you've made. And then these open badges are being made not only for open data, but across a number of different disciplines. And so if you just do a Google on open badges, you'll see a number of different agencies that are incorporating open badges. So it's just a visual representation of a skill or an achievement. So I think that's kind of a cool way of just getting some recognition for some of the classes and stuff that you've taken. So I don't have time really to play any videos, but I wanted to, if you're interested in this presentation, they're part of the presentation. And this one is by the Open Data Institute. And what can open data do for you? That's a question that oftentimes get asked by citizens, government. What is open data and what does it do for me? One real quick example is if you happen to have the app called The Bus. The Bus was one of the first apps that was developed by the city and county, a mobile app that actually took the bus API and created an app that could tell you where you are relative to the bus stop, where the bus is relative to you, and what the time of arrival is. So, and that one is probably one of the most popular city and county apps around. And there's another cool video, changing the culture of government. And the thing that I wanted to kind of emphasize with this panel here is that, the data in and of itself is just another resource. But what it enables is people coming together. And in Kristen's case, when we did the collaboration, we brought together citizens who were interested in programming, designing, and just engaged citizens who were interested in campaign spending. And what it helped do was not only understand what the data meant, but it sort of helped raise the level of their knowledge about what campaign spending does and the importance in terms of our sort of election process. And I think, everybody gained a lot from that whole experience. And then we took those applications and went around to neighborhood boards and started to share what it is that we found. And we found a lot of good reception to applications like that. And so the fact that data is available is one thing, but to bring people together and actually start to build applications really starts to bring this sort of collaborative and interactive and brainstorming activity, which to me has been very encouraging because we don't only do it with citizens, right? We engage government as well. So our hope and focus is really trying to interact with government face to face, and there are ideas that maybe could help to make the data more have more integrity or have more frequency or be more maintained over time. I mean, all these things, if discussed and if citizens are interested in it, that's what's going to help drive how data gets published. So with that, I think I will conclude my part of the presentation. I know we don't have that much time, but if there are any questions about data, good government, transparency, we'll be happy to take a couple of those questions. I know you're all interested in happy hour. Okay, with that, so I want to thank you all. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Drive safely, have happy holidays, and again, root for open data if you can in your departments. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all. I'm just going to make some quick remarks. Thank you, Brian, Kristen, and Bert. Citizen engagement is so key in government, and I think that's a really perfect dialogue to wrap up our day. Another type of engagement, social media. I just wanted to make a quick announcement that this event has had the most tweets of any of our digital government summits throughout the year, and because it is the last, it wins because it has no further competition for the rest of the year. So congratulations to you all, and thank you for your engagement throughout the event. So that does conclude our 2014 Hawaii Digital Government Summit. I want to give a special thanks to our advisory board members and our event sponsors for their work in making this event possible. Without them, we absolutely could not hold this event. I'd like to especially call out the hard work and support of OIMT. And these events are for you. Our goal is to continue to improve them and make them better for you as our attendees. I want to thank you for being here and have one simple ask of you. We will be sending out an electronic survey. Please do take the time to provide feedback in there. We really do take that seriously. We review that with our advisory board members and take all of your feedback very seriously. And I hope you will join us for that networking reception now in the exhibitor area. And mahalo, and we look forward to seeing you at the 2015 Digital Government Summit. Thank you.